You're it. You're it. You're it. Quitsies. Any quitsies. You're it. Quitsies. No any quitsies. No startsies. You can't do that. Can't do. Cannot. Triple stamped it. No erases. Touch blue. Make it true. You can't triple stamp a double stamp. You can't triple stamp a double stamp. You guys! Enough! Hey. Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
You know, with all the crazy crap going on over there right now, that video made my day. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. Donald Trump is demanding a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Those two have been trading blows back and forth nonstop. This morning, Israel launched an airstrike over inside of Iran in response to Iran firing a ballistic missile at them. While the Israeli airstrike was inbound, I mean, you had aircraft in the air flying out over towards Iran on their way out from Israel. Donald Trump actually came out and sent a message, no kidding, over Truth Social, Twitter, everything else, demanding that Israel turn the planes around. Israel decided, you know what, we'll turn everyone around, but we're just going to drop one bomb. Right. So they end up dropping their bomb, and it's been all quiet on the Western Front, so to speak, since then. Good morning, everybody. Where are you guys checking in from? How you guys doing? We've got some information to go over today. Yep, that's going to happen. And we're going to see if the ceasefire is going to hold throughout the day. If Israel ends up catching wind that Iran is setting up, like ballistic missiles to launch, things of that nature, I think all bets are off at this point. But Donald Trump, I mean, he was out in the media and he had some really choice words, and Israel isn't backing down either. And I'll tell you, I haven't verified this video yet, but it's coming from a reliable source saying that the IDF actually released this video this morning, and we're going to talk about how significant this video is here in just a sec. But I want you to listen to this because this was after all of the cat fighting that took place on social media and little bombs being dropped here and there. In context of the entire war, I mean, what's another bomb, right? Here, pay attention. IDF released this video today.
Iran, we know exactly who you are. We know the destruction of Israel is what you want, and now we know something else. Your top commanders are fleeing, because even they no longer believe you're untouchable. If you're looking to threaten us with ballistic missiles, nuclear sites, and your terrorist proxies, we can tell you, you won't break us. We don't have a terrorist regime running our country, but what we do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills we've built over decades. Skills that have dismantled terror networks, neutralized nuclear ambitions, and forced your leadership into hiding. You've embedded terrorism into your government. You've turned the IRGC and Quds Force into global threats. And now, you're watching your war plans fail, your assets compromised, and your threats crushed before you even had a chance to launch them. We don't need to threaten you. We've already demonstrated what happens when we do find you. And we will find you again if we have to. But next time, you won't be able to run.
Right. So there's that. They put that out. So I don't think Israel is expecting a ceasefire to take place. And in my opinion, that's kind of a warning going out to Tehran. Sean Hughes says, hello from the Free State of Florida. God bells the USA. And you, Matt. I got a feeling it's supposed to be God loves the USA, not God bells, but maybe I'm a little off today. I don't know, man. Listen, Florida's a great state. I actually heard that DeSantis passed a law that says that you can run over protesters in the street, which I wholeheartedly and fully support. Before we get into the main portion of the program, I just want to let you guys know that over inside of New York City right now, there's a brand new mayoral candidate. And let's just put it this way. New York may be going Muslim.
Alhamdulillah, there are 1 million Muslims in this city. 200,000 of us are registered to vote as Democrats. In the last election, only 7% of us voted. Now, I will not blame anyone because often it feels like there isn't much to vote for. But this June 24th, with early voting starting tomorrow, it is an opportunity. An opportunity for us to show that Muslims don't just belong in New York City, we also belong in City Hall. Because yesterday I stood on the debate and Andrew Cuomo stood next to me. And here was a man who was the governor for a decade, and he could not name a single mosque he had ever visited. He could not name it because he does not care. Alhamdulillah, there are a million Muslims.
Alhamdulillah, there are a million Muslims. Yeah, that guy, he is actually running for mayor in New York City, and reportedly in the early polls, he's doing pretty dang good, and it's neck and neck with him and Andrew Cuomo. So there's that happening over there as well. So we've got tons of great things to look forward to in New York. MT says, do you think that Israel would have been better off not asking for our help because they were doing a number? And then we came in and did what? Saw Iranian officials saying they were going to resume. Yeah, we'll check that out here in just a little bit. Don't put a lot of weight into what the Iranian officials are saying, to be perfectly honest with you. Just don't do that. Reason I say that is because just like yesterday, we saw that there, after the announcement of Donald Trump stating that there was a ceasefire, we had Iranian officials come out and state that there was no ceasefire that was agreed upon and they're going to continue to attack. And so it just kind of went back and forth for far too long, as far as I'm concerned, with a lot of the crap that's coming over. You know, when you talk about Israel versus Iran versus the United States, and you start talking about their officials making statements, there is a big difference. I know it's very easy when it goes to politics of looking and saying that, okay, well, you know, this is an Iranian official and this is what he said. But the truth is that those guys just end up running their mouths. I actually believe it was the spokesperson for the Iranian military yesterday that announced that there wasn't supposed to be a ceasefire and that they hadn't agreed upon it. And it caused the entire media to go in an uproar, right? Not to mention Iran lies. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. So maybe don't listen to all the Iranian officials. We're just going to have to see how this plays out. Fox McCloud says, this is the problem with mass immigration. Oh, buddy, I got something for you. If you think that that's a problem with mass immigration, I've got other problems with mass immigration that I had actually already built up. Did I put him in here or not? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I ended up putting him in here. I feel like I did. Well, maybe I didn't. Did I? Yeah, here we go. You want to talk about mass immigration problems? Here you go.
What was the significance, right? And I've been talking about this for 4 years. I was a Fox News contributor before I came back with President Trump. And for 4 years, I said my biggest concern is the open border causes the biggest national security vulnerability this country has ever seen. You know, every day, the average under Biden administration, every single day, the average was 1,800 gotaways, known gotaways. People we had on video, drone traffic, censored traffic. These are people we knew came to the United States, entered illegally. We don't know who they are, where they came from, why they're here. But they got away, and we know that number, 1,800 average every day. So every day I was complaining about the mess we had to clean up.
That's a lot of
we got
giveaways.
back in power. And I tell you, ever since the election in November when President Trump won, I worked with a lot of people who's back with the administration now. We started the plans. How are we going to fix this? First, we got to plug the hole, secure the border. We had the most secure border in the history of the nation today because of President Trump. So we plugged the hole. Now we got to bail out the water, and that's what we started planning in November. We knew we had a big job to.
You know, I'm going to go ahead and call him out on saying we have the most secure border in the history of our nation right now. I'm pretty sure it's been more secure at some other point in time other than now. I don't think we've had thousands of people ever that have been pouring across that extent. We're going to go get the actual figures. And just to let you guys know, I do have a trip to the border scheduled for August, like locked in tight, going to be over in California, going down to the border with somebody that actually spends a lot of dang time down there. I'll give you guys some more information on that as that comes out. Brandon Kaltz says that New York mayoral candidate is still in this, the year of our Lord 2025, calling for defunding the police, and some people just don't learn. Well, MT actually has more choice words about the guy. He says that guy, Zoran, said he was running for Gaza. He became a citizen 6 years ago. He's also buddies with Hassan, quote, America deserves 9/11, end quote, Piker. Sounds like a really good guy. I mean, I haven't really looked into that gentleman at all. I could really give two craps less about New York politics, but I see that stuff coming through, and you know, it definitely makes me wonder. While we're talking about immigration and everything else, this is why I actually have that up there, is because Trump on Air Force One today had some words about it as well, particularly about Iranians that may have crossed the border.
Iranian sleeper cells in the United States.
Biden led a lot of super cells, and Biden was an incompetent president, had no idea what he was doing. He hardly ever signed a document. Other people signed documents for him with the auto pen. It was gross incompetence. And among everything else, he let a lot of super cells in, many from Iran. But hopefully we'll take care of them. What Biden did to this country should never be forgotten.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So enough of the immigration, stuff like that. Let's go ahead and get into the main story. What exactly happened? Well, yesterday we ended up having the announcement of a ceasefire that was taking place by the Trump administration. Donald Trump actually came out himself and said that there was a ceasefire. At the same exact time that that was going on, this was the scene over in Iran. And what is being said is that Israel was dropping bunker busters over inside of Tehran, doing targeted strikes against officials, and this was the scene. Okay, so you've got Israel dropping bombs over there. Tehran's on fire. They're targeting officials, trying to get their last blows in. Now, the ceasefire wasn't supposed to actually go into effect until midnight Eastern Standard Time here in the United States of America. And we were live as it was going down last night. Unfortunately, YouTube ended up cutting out the feed as I was doing it. And at that point, I'm just like, my brain's fried. I can't anymore. And just kind of sat around and waited to see what was happening, to see if it was worth it, because I've only got X amount of notifications it'll push out a day. I didn't want to click on it and send out another one. But let's talk about this, right? Because as those bombs were dropping over inside of Tehran, Trump makes that announcement. Then we had Iranian officials come out and state that no, in fact, there is no ceasefire. That wasn't like, no. And then it comes out later that, yes, there is a ceasefire agreement and everybody's going to abide by it. And we start getting the details of it. But Israel continued to drop bombs over inside of Iran. Now, Trump did come out and state that they are going to be finishing up their last bit of airstrikes, their last little, slap on the freaking wrist for each other before the ceasefire is supposed to take effect. Happy Guy 2355 says, since the Iran strike on the U.S. base at Qatar, do you think Qatar is pressuring Trump to stop supporting Israel publicly or otherwise? From the Communist Republic of San Francisco, size of the Iran army. Yeah, we'll get there. So do you think Qatar is pressuring Trump to stop supporting Israel? No, I don't. I really don't. Listen, the United States paid a buttload of money for that freaking base, and knowing Qatar and knowing Iran, I think there's a reason that that particular location was picked. Qatar has a decent relationship with Iran, so to speak, and the U.S. also has a decent relationship with Iran. The U.S. actually started moving their aircraft out of that base like 10 plus days ago, I think. So we foresaw this coming a long time ago. It just moved them the hell out of the area. But at the same time, not a single ballistic missile actually ended up impacting that airbase over there. Not one. They were all intercepted and shot out of the sky. Now, do I think that Iran and Qatar had talks and said, hey, we're going to end up shooting these things. Please have our, we're saving face. And do we have any information in the past that would suggest that they would have done that? Yeah, we do. I mean, Trump actually made a statement about how Iran had warned the United States before they retaliated last time. Sorry, I can't think and type at the same time, but I'm multitasking as I go along here. So sorry about that. And then to answer your question, the Iranian military has just over 500,000 personnel, right around 600,000. So that is their size. And I think that Iran likely knew that this was coming. I think so did the United States of America. I think Iran actually did, if I remember right, came out and said yesterday that they did warn the United States before that attack. But there were several other attacks that actually took place yesterday inside of Iraq as well. I want to say it wasn't Najaf. I'm trying to think of it. I can't remember. Anyways, yeah, there was a place over right outside of Baghdad that ended up getting hit. The Al-Assad air base over in western Iraq reportedly had attacks on it. I did see unconfirmed reports that there was wounded U.S. service members due to those attacks, although all of those are unsubstantiated. Carlton Percy coming in, gifting out $2. Thank you, brother. I greatly appreciate you. So, yeah, what ended up unfolding after that was a very large strike on Israel. We ended up having, I believe I counted a total of 6 ballistic missile waves, at least 5 that I know of. And they were going off even after the ceasefire was supposed to go in place at midnight Eastern Standard Time here in the United States of America. I mean, daylight was up over inside of Israel as these freaking things were dropping. And we ended up seeing, a strike on a 7-story apartment complex over inside of Beersheba. It was reported a mass casualty incident. I have the updated figures for you guys. But to throw it out there, this might have been what you're looking at on your screen. All right. So following all of that into this morning, when Trump finally came out and made a statement and told everybody to stop and turn around, this might have been the final bomb dropped between these two countries. TBD, right? And we're going to go with TBD on this one because it sounds like there's a lot of Israelis that are pissed off right now. And it sounds like Israel, like I just showed you that video, the IDF had just put out that statement stating, don't be doing that crap. Now, all night long, and I mean all night long, Israel and Iran were duking it out. This is Israel going after some of their freaking ballistic missiles that they were launching last night over towards Israel. The waves that they were firing really weren't that big. They were just a couple ballistic missiles per wave. But there was multiple waves that ended up going down in there. And like I said, you ended up having one of these ballistic missiles strike a civilian apartment complex. Unsure of the actual damage over inside of Iran, there's actually not that much information coming out of there this morning. It would seem as if all of the internet has kind of been taken control of again over there. Yeah, I see people saying old news, this was yesterday. Well, this ceasefire that just came in happened today. So there you go. If you don't like it, then you can go away. All right. But I got to get people caught up because there's a lot of people, although you K1N Dread, or however the heck your silly name is supposed to be, believe it or not, there's other people that watch this show that are not like fully spun up on the day. They're jumping in and try to figure out what's going on. So that's why we go back and we recap and then go into the next. It's this little thing called like storytelling and making sure people understand the totality of the situation so that they know actually what's going on. So I'm sorry that bothers you. I really am. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, that last target that Israel ended up striking after all of those exchanges ended up being a radar site over inside of Iran. And that is allegedly some closer up video of that radar site getting hit as well. So that's what we've got going on over there. Mayor Howland says Trump, I believe, wanted to save face and not picking sides, so he blamed both. He wanted to show his bias that he is America first, but the problem is still alive and recovering. Yeah, we'll find out, though. BBG coming in, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Unknown at this time, by the way, what the ceasefire deal is going to consist of, because I got a feeling they still got to talk about this, because I want you to remember that they had to basically figure out a way to negotiate this. And I don't understand how they could do it, because the Ayatollah has been steadfast on stating that they will continue to enrich their uranium, while Israel in the United States of America state numerous times over the last year that Iran will not be allowed to enrich uranium. So if there is going to be a ceasefire deal agreed upon by Israel and the United States of America, I would think, for the love of God, I would think that it would include like Iran not enriching uranium, but we'll find out. So yeah, as all that duking out is going on, Trump ends up putting this out, right? Like things are going back and forth. This was about 3 hours ago. Trump says Israel is not going to attack Iran. All plans will turn around and head home, while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald J. Trump. Now, before he ended up kicking out that message, he actually put out another one, like right before it, as Israel's got planes on the way going over to Iran. This is what he puts out. He says, Israel, do not drop these bombs. If you do, it is a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Donald Trump, President of the United States. What ended up happening, Israel ended up releasing one bomb, I feel like just kind of as a middle finger to Donald Trump to just go ahead and let it go. So that's what you got going on over there. At the same time, with all of those different responses that Trump had going out, he ended up having some pretty wild statements, as a matter of fact, today. Let me grab that. I don't know why I didn't put that one in here. Give me a sec. A lot of people are, I don't know how to say this, but Donald Trump is pissed. And there is a video going around of him dropping an F-bomb, and I'm all for, like precise drops of S-bombs at the appropriate amounts of time, but I'm going to put this one up on the screen and I'm going to let it play because it's a little bit longer. It's like a 4-minute interview with Trump, and people are pulling little tiny clips out of it, but I want you guys to hear the entire thing in context as we get up here on the screen.
But reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it. Yeah, I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay?
Have you spoken to him this morning? How confident are you that
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
Do you believe that Iran can rebuild its nuclear program?
Well, Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You really are. You're real losers. You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people. And the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times. But the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
Israel says that Iran violated the peace agreement, the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
And he just breaks the wrist and walks away, man. God, dude. God bless him. Well, listen, sometimes you just got to drop an F-bomb as the president of the United States, I suppose. Everybody else is dropping bombs. Why not freaking old Donnie T over there? Now, the way all of this ended up going down reportedly, and again, this is reportedly or allegedly, however you want to say it, is that Donald Trump originally gave Israel the right to retaliate, or told them, yeah, go ahead, retaliate. But when he woke up this morning, he saw that Israel was still doing that, and that's when he got pissed off, right? So he was aware that Iran was firing ballistic missiles at Israel. He saw that all of this crap was going on, told Israel, go ahead, do your little retaliation strikes, even though you've been bombing the shit out of them this entire time, and then woke up this morning and was upset. At least that's how it's being reported, and that's how it's coming out right now. We don't know. I'm not the president, and I don't know what the heck he told Netanyahu, so I couldn't tell you if that's actually the truth. My goodness. Where did I go? I ended up missing this. Here we go. Happy Guy says, I'm sorry, G508 says, what happened to the other host? Well, Rob is now a law enforcement officer in the state of Texas. So that's what ended up happening to him. Happy Guy 2355 says, since the Iran strike on the U.S. base in Qatar, we touched on that one. Here we go. Getting back into it. Here we go. All right. So BBG ended up gifting at the 5. Now I found my spot. All right. Davey here, although there may be a ceasefire, don't you think there are rough fighters firing missiles? Again, positive results without making excuses. I think peace. Yeah, and that's what Trump was talking about when he said maybe it was by mistake. I've said this before. When you end up having like that ideology that goes behind why they're attacking Israel and why they're doing what they're doing, it is possible that you end up having people that are so pissed off at the ceasefire on the IRGC side that they're going to fire ballistic missiles anyways. Like their buddies have been getting killed over the last like 12 days. They're livid. They want to get their last shots in too. That stuff happens all the dang time when you end up having these ceasefires that go into place. So Israel retaliating because of one little knucklehead, which could then cause the war to spin out. Part of me kind of agrees with being like, hey, dude, it was one missile. It was intercepted. Let it go. But at the same time, we're going to go over what one of those missiles did over inside Israel here in just a minute and the actual aftermath of that and why Israel would be so dang pissed about it. And I can totally see it. So, yeah, I'm not making excuses for the words that came out of his mouth. But at the same time, I mean, if you put it in context, I kind of do understand. Jacob Natter said, we need to stop blindly supporting Israel. They need to stand on their own 2 feet and fight their own battles. Okay. That's one take on it. Incog Faraday, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Amit says, I do not know what Trump is talking about. The fact that I suffocate in a shelter with no electricity for half an hour in a very hot... Yeah, dude, I get you there, brother. I get you. They have been nonstop bringing ballistic missiles down on y'all for quite some time now, and it's time for it to go away. The fact that you guys have to have flipping bomb shelters because of Iran. And I'm not talking about because of the ballistic missile threat that they face. I'm talking about everything else. You know, this morning I ended up putting out a post just to get everybody's freaking brains back in the game. And I want you to listen to these figures and facts that actually come out of it. Particularly the guy that just said that we need to let Israel fight their own war. Between 2003 and 2011, almost 1 out of every 5 U.S. service members killed between Iraq and Afghanistan, right? Between Iraq and Afghanistan were at the hands of the Iranian regime. In Iraq alone, they accounted for 17.3% of U.S. service members' deaths during that time frame. All right, Iran has been causing instability across the Middle East. Think about that: 1 out of every 5 U.S. service members, and that's inside of Iraq, and that's inside of Afghanistan. That's not Iranian territory. That's not Iranians' home freaking country. That's not their home turf. That's not their home soil. And yet they still saw the opportunity to go kill Americans, so they decided it'd be a good idea to do it. Over inside Israel, the reason you guys have bunkers over there is also the fault of Iran by supplying Hezbollah, Hamas, and all the other various terror organizations that are their proxies around the region. And for those of you that don't believe that Iran actually supplies them, here's Mr. Sinwar letting you know that they did.
كان لدينا في فصائل المقاومة بضع صواريخ جراد 20 زودتنا بها الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران وبعض الصواريخ من الصناعة المحلية وبعض وظائف الهاون وتفاجأ العالم بالمفاجأة التي فاجأت مقاومتنا بها الاحتلال حين ضربت مدينة بئر السبع بصواريخ جراد 40 كيلو بعد 4 أعوام في عام 2012 ضربت مقاومتنا لأول مرة تل أبيب بصواريخ فجر من دعم الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران. كان لدي
I don't even speak squiggly, and I can tell what he's saying there, and you can definitely get it in with the subtitles when you make it out. Look, Sinwar even admitted to it, and it's amazing to me the amount of Americans, or the amount of people around this world that do not realize that Iran actually end up supplying the bulk of these freaking munitions over to them. MT says, yeah, I think Israel was better off without our help. They were winning and had to stop. I think they should wean themselves off of the U.S. and be more independent. Well, I would agree with you, except for the fact that I don't think Israel actually had the capability to strike the sites at Fordo and at Hans and actually have the effects on target that were required. Remember, what we are trying to do is knock out their uranium enrichment capabilities and their storage sites. And they put that crap so deep underground, I don't think Israel had the ability to actually do it. U.S. had to drop 30,000-pound bombs just to reach that bunker. You mean to tell me Israel had the capability of dropping 30,000-pound bombs? Brother, I don't think they do. As a matter of fact, I know they don't. And I also know that they don't have those bombs either. MT says, we are not supposed to care about how many of our own Iran has killed, Matt, because something Israel. Yeah, there you go. There's a statement right there. That's actually pretty freaking accurate. That sounds like it's straight out of the mouth of AOC or any of the other cronies that she actually has going around. All right, let me get you guys caught up to some of the other stuff that's going on. So the Iranians also fired waves of drones over Israel. There's a video of some of the drones actually being shot out of the sky by Israeli Defense Forces, taking them out. Apache helicopters actually come in very handy for Israel when it comes to hunting down these drones. They actually learned that with Hezbollah. It's a great way to get them, and they just go over and they end up finding these little suckers. Now let's talk about Beersheba for a minute and the overall impact that Iran ended up having on Beersheba. How many people did they kill? Well, right now it's being reported that 7 Israeli civilians were killed in that strike down in Beersheba. I had lots of videos up last night as they were just slowly rolling out. So 7 people were killed in Beersheba. All right. Here's a image that ended up coming away from the scene with rescue crews that were out there. Countless others injured so far. There's actually plenty more that they were still digging out to the rubble the last I checked. Yeah. That is the destruction of an Iranian ballistic missile, striking an apartment complex in Beersheba, over in kind of like southern-ish Israel, okay? And again, the whole place was occupied. Here's videos of them actually pulling people out the rubble over there.
כרגע כוחות כב"ה מחלצים מתוך הדירה. טוב. הנה אישה מבוגרת. ידיים על הבטן, גברת, ידיים על הבטן. מעולה, מעולה. 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 כוחות כב"ה מעבירים פה לפיקוד העורף. רגע, הדירה כאן. הפוך, הפוך, עם הפנים כאן, הפנים אחורה, עם הרגליים למטה. עם הרגליים למטה. טיפה הטיה. לא עם הראש למטה. שימו לב כרגע לזירה כאן. פינו מעבר. פינו מעבר כאן. כוחות הכיבוי סורקים בתוך הבניין ביחד עם פיקוד העורף. שימו לב, זה הסלון של הבית.
You know, it's funny. I saw someone comment, "That's a war crime," right? Somebody said, "That's a war crime." Yeah, you're right. It kind of is, isn't it? Let's just leave that little image up on the screen there while we talk through this. You know, I mentioned how many proxy forces Iran actually supplies around the region. When this video actually came out last night, it wasn't this one. It was this woman screaming. I could probably go find it immediately following the strike. But that within itself, I just knew when those images of that building came out that this crap wasn't going to, like, it wasn't going to turn out pretty. I had my inbox filled with so many questions from reporters and everybody else this morning. It was kind of insane. And the best I could describe this situation was like two boxers that absolutely hated each other, and the bell was ringing and the ref couldn't even get in between them. And they just kept slapping the crap out of each other. Tom Bone says, do you think the RRTC would try to salvage some of that uranium in order to make a dirty bomb to strike Israel with? Yeah, I mean, it is possible. MT says, I think a better play would have been Israel going straight for the regime, and Fordo would be under the control of Pahlavi. Might be wrong though, dude. You know, Pahlavi, excuse me. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's 6 in one, half a dozen the other. When you start talking about like different regime changes and everything else, when you start talking about taking out those key leaders, sometimes the devil you know is better than the devil that you don't know. And at the end of the day, if there's members that are sympathetic to the IRGC that are working inside those factories, let's say they steal a bunch of that uranium, you could have people that just kind of, you know, as they notice the country is collapsing, go out and grab that uranium, fix it up, and then they themselves turn into a different terror organization. We saw that same type of thing happen over inside of Iraq. After we overthrew Saddam's regime, you had all of his loyalists. Number one, we made huge mistakes about that, and we can talk through that later. But a bunch of members of the Ba'ath Party ended up deciding they were going to continue to fight. Now, there is several reports that suggest that that is because the United States government refused to allow them to work with U.S. service members as long as they were part of Iraq's military and were loyal to the Ba'ath Party during Saddam's rule. But at the same time, those people still need to get fed and they need to get paid. And likely over inside of Iran, you would have had the same issues taking place because of how extreme that regime was. So likely a lot of that enriched uranium might have probably made its way over onto the black market and could have made it into the hands of a lot of people that don't need to have it. Colmy McCurdy says, first time supporter, but I've been watching since the start of the channel. Keep up the good work. Shout out to my mom who might be watching today. Oh, hi mom. How are you, mama? And Matt Borgeson says, wow, Fuzz Peach Lord wasn't able to maintain the ceasefire in the Middle East. I can't believe this. I am shocked. Wow, what a surprise. Yeah, I mean, dude, I mean, I don't know how to say it. I mean, there is some very cultural understandings that I think that Trump is missing out on. And I blame his advisors, but I also blame him because it's on him to steady up. He's got a long freaking plane ride over to the NATO summit today. He better start reading up between that and Ukraine and Russia and start figuring out what the hell is actually going on over there, because this could actually turn out pretty bad for the administration if they don't like this type of crap, right? Like picture this, but on a scale of the Ukraine-Russian war. Okay. And picture something like this happening. And instead of just 7 deaths over inside, and by the way, you know, I'm not numb to what's taking place over inside of Ukraine. I've been watching it on a daily basis. This just happens to be the main story that's getting fed out right now. All right. Passenger train over inside of Ukraine actually got struck, and it was filled with a bunch of freaking women and kids. And it got struck by a freaking, I believe it was a Russian drone, if I remember right. But I want you to picture the same way that this unfolded taking place over inside of Ukraine. And the deal is, if you don't understand the cultural dynamics between these two countries and what's taking place, dude, your ceasefire is garbage. That's the whole reason we ended up not getting the 100-day ceasefire that he was talking about, or the 100-day end of the war. However many days it was, he said when he gets into office, he's going to have everything kind of like shut down by then. No. I know at one point it was day one. I know at one point, like, whatever, man. Listen, at the end of the day, if you don't understand the culture behind everything, you're screwed. You're not going to get a dang thing done. So he really needs to start reading up and studying. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying he needs to get read up a hell of a lot more. Mark Dem Align says, checking in from Montana. Thanks for the truth, as always. 25 effing months and going, hell yeah, brother. MT says, oof, never mind. Didn't think about that. Yeah, that would suck, right? Who would want that enriched uranium in the hands of those people? I know I sure as hell wouldn't, to be perfectly honest with you. I really wouldn't. Ladies and gentlemen, if I missed one of your donations, just tag me in the comments and make me go look for it, because I forget as I go along, or sometimes the YouTube feed just isn't doing a good job over here on this laptop as I continue to push through this. So that's what ended up happening between those two countries, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, the gentleman that is supposed to be taking over, as we look at him, he actually put out a statement today as well. And I'm talking about over inside of Iran, the Crown Prince, whatever have you. He ends up saying, compatriots, we are now in the final stage of the fateful battle of the organization with the Islamic Republic, a regime that is 10 times weaker and more humiliated today than it was just 2 weeks ago. And it's on the verge of collapse. But it's our duty, the Iranian nation, to continue this difficult path to complete victory with courage, solidarity, and sacrifice, and to finish the job. To the military, law enforcement, and security forces, stand with the Iranian nation and do not stand against it. Disobey the execution of repressive orders against the people. If you commit a crime, the fate of the criminals whose hands were stained with the nation's blood awaits you. Know that your every action is being monitored. This is your last chance, and this is a serious warning. In the international community, do not save, and to the international community, do not save this corrupt, terrorist, and collapsing regime. Do not strengthen a regime that will soon, once again, point its weapons, terror, and missiles at you. In this historic moment, stand with the people of Iran, supporting and protecting them from the vengeance and violence of this declining regime. My dear people, stay brave. Victory is ours. That's his statement. Now, what do I think about that? Well, I think that it is exactly that. It's a political statement. It is too soon to tell whether or not the regime is collapsing to the point that he is kind of stating, trying to push people over. And in my opinion, a lot of things that ended up getting said throughout that entire statement sound like a lot of psychological operations. If the internet is not doing as good over in Iran as people are saying right now over in Iran, if that internet's not doing as good and he's able to actually get messages like this out, then you can start changing minds. And that's the whole idea. I got asked about psychological operations yesterday and how will they work. And definitely it's something that's going to have to take place over between these two nations. Oh my goodness. The only way through ends up giving me a comment over on X, and he says, Israel does fight its own battles. America flew one bunker buster over Iran, refuses to give Israel bunker busters, so you let Israel use America's bunker busters one time. The end. 0 American casualties. Pretty sure U.S. Air Force guys who did the bombing feels pretty good today because he did the right thing and is a hero. Here's the problem, man. Israel doesn't have the capability to actually deploy those bombs. I'll say that again. Israel does not have the capability to deploy those bombs. So then we would what? Lease them some aircraft in order to conduct this operation and be held just as viable for that? Not to mention the amount of train-up time it would take to get those Israeli pilots spun up on it. I mean, use common sense here, man. Like, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I mean, at the end of the day, you're freaking welcome, dude. Seriously. We ended up knocking out, like, and this is the part that kind of pisses me off. And oh, by the way, you know, if you think that you don't need the United States of America's help, fine. We'll pull our freaking Patriot batteries out of Israel as well. How would you feel about that? How many more Israeli civilians would be dead without the U.S. Patriots over inside of Israel right now? Question. Answer that. Go ahead. You know, like, this is the issue, right? Like, there is a statement that we have in America, and it's called, don't bite the hand that feeds you. And while I root for America, while I root for Israel, while we both have the same common enemy, what really pisses me off is entitled people, all right, that think that they can handle it. Look, it's not bad to need help. Israel's like this big in comparison to everything else that's going on. They're like a pissed off little hornet's nest over in the Middle East every time they get attacked, all right? And it's nothing against Israel whatsoever. But at the end of the day, they don't have the capability to conduct the attack. We have the capability. We also don't want Iran to enrich uranium. We're the big Satan. Remember, you're just the little one. And if we're going to be called the big Satan, we might as well do big Satan things and drop some of those 30,000 freaking pound bombs over there. So not to be a jerk, man, but holy freaking crap. All right. U.S. has had service members killed during this conflict, whether they albeit not on Israeli soil. Well, I don't know. We can talk about the port of Ashdod, or I'm sorry, the port that got put in down in Gaza. We lost U.S. service member because of that stupid ass port going to the freaking Palestinians. We had several of them get injured just in constructing that port within itself, which should have never been. And I think most people would agree with me on that. It cost a buttload of money for absolutely no reason. So there's that, right? Not to mention all of the work that we were doing on the Houthis for so long. How much did you guys complain when we stopped bombing the Houthis? How many airstrikes was Israel conducting during the U.S. air campaign against them? Last I checked, Israel didn't start until the U.S. stopped. And so you can complain about the U.S. not supporting Israel or being a pain in the ass because we decided how we wanted this portion of the battle to go. But at the end of the frickin' day, I bet you wouldn't rather have Biden in charge right now. I really bet you wouldn't. And I'm kind of sick and tired of it, man. You know, like, if you're going to beg and plead for munitions, if you're going to beg and plead for us to help strike Iran, and then you're going to complain in the manner in which we do it, you need to stop. I love Israel. I support Israel. I support the Israeli people. I am an American Zionist. All right. I do believe Israel has a right to exist and a right to self-defense. But that doesn't mean that I believe that Israelis can just tell us what the hell to do. I don't see it that way. All right. You negotiate from a position of strength and not a position of weakness. And right now, last I checked, Israel needed our help. And oh, by the way, that's right. Hamas also killed Americans and was holding on to U.S. hostages. So I'm over this shit. We're doing our absolute best. We are spending our taxpayer dollars to help out you. And you're going to whine and complain because we didn't give you the ability to drop a bomb. Lloyd Devine says, speak the truth. If not for Russia, China, U.S. troops would already be in Tehran. Well, I don't know about Russia and China. Russia has got no ability to respond currently, and we talked about that before. Yeah, y'all love you guys too, man. All right? Love you guys too. Russia doesn't have the ability to respond. A lot of people are worried about Russia jumping in and responding to all this crap. That's just simply not the case. That's a misunderstanding of the situation. Russia is not going to. They're way, way too weak. Now, I'm going to probably pronounce this guy's name wrong. Mushtaba Khamenei, all right? Mushtaba Khamenei, there is reports that he is killed. So it could have been the reports that we were getting about the Ayatollah being killed. It might not have actually been the Ayatollah himself. It might actually be his son who possibly could have been killed. To get back over to Beersheba, I'm not sure how this ended up not making it, but here's some more footage that ended up coming out of Beersheba while we talk about that, right? Whole building ends up getting wrecked. All right. So, liberal haters, everybody else, listen, I don't even care liberal or conservative, because I'm getting honest with you, I'm getting pissed off at the MAGA side of the house just as much as I am at the liberal side of the house. Matt Borgerson coming in with 5. He says, I agree with you, but I've spoken to so many Trump voters, and the red line is a war in the Middle East with U.S. involvement. We need to stay out, period. Okay, again, just because somebody says we need to not be involved doesn't mean we need to not be involved. All right? People that don't fully understand the situation and scream America first don't understand the concept of a nuclear-armed Iran and the different thing that the proxy organizations do. And so it is incumbent upon the President of the United States to make the best decisions for the American population, not just for his voter base or the people that chose not to vote against, or that voted against him, but for the American population within itself. That's his job. And that job is based on intelligence that he gets and information that he gets that nobody else is really privy to. All right. And he uses that to make some very tough decisions at the end of the day. And so you got to ask yourself, do you think that you know more than that man does at the end of the day? You know, we can question different ways he goes about it when he makes his decisions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, no, you don't. MT says, people forget that the big Satan and deaf to America is not just a slogan. It is a policy from the Ayatollah stuff. Don't let turds on the web anger you. Nah, you know, I tend not to. But again, just kind of getting sick and tired of it. Yeah, the right wing, dude, is just out of control. I don't understand how the MAGA base can say that I really don't understand how the MAGA base can say that, you know, they're MAGA, which would, and you know, say that they ended up supporting frickin' Trump, right? And that they're diehard Trump supporters, but when Trump makes a decision, they don't support it. That doesn't seem right to me. They also seem to have a very large misunderstanding of what's taking place. Those numbers that I just cited off earlier, about 1 out of every 5 U.S. service members killed during the global war on terror from the United States of America between Iraq and Afghanistan was at the fault of Iran. A lot of people don't even realize that. A lot of people don't understand what it means for Iran to have over 900 pounds of enriched uranium beyond 60%, and how close they were, that there was reports saying that it was enriched beyond 87% as far back as 2015. People think that this is just a joke, and it's not. They think that Iran can't touch us. They think that we are untouchable, and that is the fault of Western society today. Israel learned that lesson very hard this last week. MT says, yes, the Ayatollah's son, IA urinal. Yeah. So, in my opinion, right, like everybody in the West needs to actually start taking these threats extremely serious, because what ends up happening when we turn a blind eye is what we've just seen. All of this should have been handled. And the truth is, if we really want to put blame anywhere, all of this should have been handled years ago. And I mean years ago, all of this crap should have been handled. There is absolutely no reason for Iran to be enriching at the state that they currently are. They are signatories to the NPT and have been for decades, right? And they are allowed to have peaceful nuclear energy under that. What they're not allowed to do is enrich to the point that they were doing, make statements the way in which they were making for as long as they had, allowing them to get to that point. I believe that the sole reason that we are in the position we are today is because we ignored things such as what was taking place in Iraq and Afghanistan, knowing that Iran was responsible for a bunch of that. We ignored terrorist organizations like Hezbollah and allowed Iran to pump buttloads of money into them while doing very little to combat it. We ignored terrorist organizations such as Ansarullah down inside Yemen and allowed them to get enriched as much as they did by Iran as well, putting them in that exact same position. When our U.S. sailors end up getting taken hostage or POWs by Iran underneath the Obama administration, and we do quite literally nothing about it, that just emboldens Iran even further. And we have ignored Iran and the nasty things that they've been doing, including funding the bombing of our freaking embassies, killing of U.S. Marines, killing of U.S. soldiers and service members and everything else, not to mention their direct support to terror organizations like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like Ansarullah, like Kataib Hezbollah. All of these freaking people, man, that they're over there, and numerous other tiny little terror organizations around the Middle East that are still firing on U.S. troops as of yesterday. And we ignore it. Why? Because we want to avoid war. Well, I got news for you, ladies and gentlemen. The world is not a pretty place. And you can't give these people soccer balls. You can't give them hugs. You can't give them money. You can't give them humanitarian aid and get them to change their radical ideology. It's just never going to happen. With that being said, some people just need to have a bullet in their forehead. I believe the Ayatollah is one of them. I believe the members of the IRGC and all of their proxy terrorist organizations around the Middle East are the others. And until we actually solve that problem and accept that fact that the world's an ugly place and some people just need to die in order to stop that threat, then we're going to have this problem forever. MTC is because many of them hate Israel more than they love America. Not even joking. No, that's a valid statement, man. Jay Dolan says, anyone who thinks Israel, Jews, and Christians don't have a right to live need to go. Radical Islam has wore out its welcome. Yeah, and there's a lot of people that think that way. And yes, like I said, the world is an ugly place and some people just need to die. That is just a fact. That's how it goes down. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap it up for the day. This has been a very long weekend for me. I want to take a little bit of a break this morning and kind of like center myself and go exercise and kind of get some of that out of my system. Thank you guys for joining me for another episode this morning. I'll see you tonight, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Peace, love, happiness, and God bless. I am out of here. Oh, DeMayo, it's not about MAGA. Liberals, Republicans, Democrats, it's all about keeping America safe, and that includes the world safe. Sun Wukong, as frustrating as this is, I think this outcome was inevitable with the way it played out. Looking weak is a cardinal sin, and everybody knows it. All three countries are trying not to eat the hot potato.